here, standing in the square. We worship you. We worship you. You are here. Working in this place, Lord. I worship you. Together we worship. I worship you. Oh, waymaker, miracle worker, promise keeper. He's alive. Light in the darkness. My God, that is who you are. Miracle worker, promise keeper. Light in the darkness. My God, that is who you are. Look here, turn it right around. Moving in the midst.
Now is going to introduce you Minister George of Scotland, who's going to come and talk to you for a while about Halloween, the dangers, and so on and so on. I'm going to ask you now, put your hands together as she comes and speaks to you for a while. God bless you. Come on, sir.
Now can we put our hands together for the King of Kings? So can we put our hands together for the King of Kings and the Lord of Lords? Come on, can we lift up a praise in the house? Come on, you can do better than that. That would be great if that was to a person. But we are here to declare that Jesus Christ is the only living God. Come on, let's put our hands together. welcomed you to Hallow Him 2017.
Amen.
One person's happy to be. I want to now I've probably got hours of research, which I'm going to try and do in about 20 minutes, if that, today. Because we really felt that the purpose of today needs to be about praise and about worship. How many of you believe that there is power in praise? Amen. How many of you believe? Can I just see the hands of all the believers in the house today? Amen. You know, can I just clarify one thing? This isn't a Halloween alternative. I've seen all over the internet and Twitter that we have an alternative. This is not an alternative. There is only one God, and his name is Jesus. He owns every date in the calendar. He owns every month in the year. He owns every day of the week. He owns time. He exists in time and outside of time. Are you with me? Satan does not have a day. All he has is an expiry date. So this is not an alternative to Halloween. We are basically here to declare that Jesus Christ is Lord. Amen. You know, about 7 years ago, I just, for some of you that don't know how this started, I just kind of noticed that there was a real increase in all of the publicity around Halloween, and the Lord just began to speak to me about and really open my eyes to begin to see what is really taking place in London, but we know across the world, but certainly in London because this is our jurisdiction. And I remember the Lord saying, just giving me a caption, and the caption was, "Why Halloween when you can hallow Him?" And I remember bringing it to the board, and they all laughed at me. You know, there's always one that's a bit left. I'm a bit left because I'm left-handed, I guess. And they kind of all laughed. But then when I said, "No, come on, let's have a look at this. Let's try. Let me just put something on where we just go to another level of praise and worship, where we just hallow the King of Glory." And then they said, "Okay, let's do that." And the first year we just did it locally, we just had it here. And then the second and the third and the fourth year we took it to Stratford Town Hall. Then last year we were privileged to have ex-Satanist John Ramirez that came, and he spoke to us about his experience of how the Lord actually took him out of Satanism and he brought him into the faith, and we had an awesome time. But this year we wanted to locate it back in our own home ground again and just have the focus on praise and on worship, and that's what we want to do today. But I just want to briefly talk to you a little bit about the origins of Halloween. Most of you that have come to the Hallow Him events, if you like, or services over the last 6 years, you would have heard a lot of these teachings, but for some of you perhaps you might be hearing it for the first time. But one of the first things that I want to say is that Halloween is essentially about darkness. And actually, as we've moved into different years and in some ways closer to the end times, you would have seen that there has been an increase in wickedness and evil over the world. You would have, every Christian really should see that there is darkness upon the face of the world more than it was, say, 10 years ago or even 15 years ago or even last year. Now, Halloween has its origins in what was called the Druids. The Druids essentially were kind of, if you like, high priests that operated around the time of the Celtics. And they used to celebrate something called Samhain. And Samhain really is translated as worshipping what they called the horn god. And there were lots of rituals that they would follow as part of them worshipping Samhain. Initially what they talked about was that it was about the change of the season. So it was moving in from the summer solace, if you like, into the winter solace. And what they believed, particularly around the 31st of October, was that because we were moving into a time of darkness in terms of the seasons, but they believed spiritually that the veil between the spirit realm and the natural realm was very thin, and in their belief they believed that because the spirit realm, the veil separating the spirit from the natural realm was thin, that it was an ideal opportunity for them to, if you like, bring in spirits from the spirit realm. Okay? And so one of the things that all of the rituals like trick or treat, jack-o'-lantern and all of those things have its origins in witchcraft. These druids or high priests really were like warlocks, if you like. They were reverenced by the people. The people went to them when they wanted disputes to be settled. They went to them for prayer. It was steeped very much in paganism, and really paganism, as we know, is steeped in witchcraft. And so what happened is when Pope Gregory III, in his attempt to Christianise the pagans at that time and to bring in the Roman Catholic Church, what they did is they essentially moved the dates around and they changed the name. Those of you that might have some sort of experience of Catholicism will know that they have something called, it used to be called All Saints Day, and then it changed to All Hallows Eve, and then it moved from All Hallows Eve to Halloween. But essentially, it's not about praying for the dead saints that have departed. It really is also a celebration of death. And in other countries, what they believe is that during that night, that they are able to get in contact with spirits that died. Now, the trick-or-treating, let's go back a little bit to come forward, is what they believed is that during that festival of Samhain, druids would walk around the villages saying something like trick or treat. It wasn't quite trick or treat, but it was something similar. And what they were essentially suggesting, or they were knocking on doors, and the idea is that households needed to supply the druids with some kind of human sacrifice that would either be a daughter or a slave girl. And essentially what they would do is they would sacrifice that daughter on what they call a bonfire. Are you still with me? And so now what we see, if we move on now to 2017, what we have is children walking the streets of London and across the world, knocking on doors saying trick or treat. But essentially what they're doing is they're saying bless me or curse me, which is really how you could translate trick or treat. And just to go one step further, is if the family who had the misfortune of the druids knocking on that door did not supply them with some kind of sacrifice, what they would then do is draw a pentagram on that door, and then they would evoke curses into that household. So somebody in that household would actually die. And that's what they meant by trick or treat. And if they did supply them with some kind of a daughter or slave child, then they would give them a pumpkin or something similar. They would cut out a face. They were told to put it outside their homes so that demon spirits that were passing into the natural realm during the night would pass over that house. Is everybody with me? So we can see that's very quick, but this is over maybe 7-8 more years of research. There's a lot of information out there, but we can definitely see that something that is celebrated today is steeped in witchcraft. Now moving on, in what's called Wicca, which is essentially a religion that is celebrated by witches, Halloween once again is one of their high days. It's one of what they call, they have 8 sabbats, and Halloween is one of them. Now if we move forward even more, we move into Satanism. Now I have had the misfortune of doing a lot of research into Satanism, looking at lots of material, reading lots of blogs and so on, which I would not advise you to do, but I have learned a lot about some of the rituals that they perform on Halloween. Those rituals are really very, very hideous is really the only word that I can use. But essentially what they believe is that Halloween is a high day. It's a day where they are able to go into the spirit realm, let's just call it the spirit realm, and they can conjure in high-ranking demons. Now, let me just tell you something about the devil. We don't often preach about the devil. It's not because we want to big him up, but in this church in particular, this is a church that was born out of deliverance. So having had the experience of going to Africa and really seeing witchcraft in its full form. I'm not saying it just happens in Africa, because it's just as prevalent in the UK today, but I know from first hand that witchcraft actually exists. And so what they believe in Satanism is that it is Satan's day. It's a day where they worship him. So they are preparing sacrifices at least a week leading up to Halloween. Now, a part of their sacrifice includes human sacrifices. Nobody wants to talk about that, but it is a fact. Right. Now, there's lots of clips and things that I have, but because of time and we can't show some of them, is that they have what they call breeders. Now, breeders are women or girls that are born into satanic families. So you know, like, what we've got to realise, church, firstly I want to say that the scripture tells us that my people perish for lack of knowledge. Not the unsaved, not the Buddhists, not the atheists, but God's people. We're either perishing for lack of knowledge, or many of us are sleeping, in my opinion, when the body of Christ is concerned. I reckon if this was a conference on prosperity and blessing, it will be packed. We'd have to rent out people's houses just to extend. But because it's this kind of service, people don't want to come, because Christians don't really understand that they are in a war and they are at war. They don't understand that. You know, what the Lord was showing me today is that we are operating, the church is operating on such a low level. Yeah. We're operating on the level of the cares of this world that the Bible talks about. Yeah. Now, don't get me wrong. You know, I have cares of this world that I could talk to you about for 5 years and onwards. And we have them. But it is the ply of the enemy to keep us away of what is really taking place. The finances, the husband that's wayward, notice I said the husband first, the wife that's wayward, the children that won't listen, you know, the job, the church, everything else, the business, all of those things are deceptions of the enemy. The Lord says he knows that we have need of them, but it ain't about that. We're far from where we should be as a church. So in Satanism, in the same way that the Lord tends to call families and nations into his kingdom, Satan also works with families. So you have Satanists that have children. If it's a girl child, then quite often they're initiated into Satanism and they are described as breeders. Now what happens with breeders, I'm not calling them that, but that's what they're called. And again, after years of research, I've come in contact with women that have put their testimonies up on the internet and have talked about certain things that took place, is that they have been able to really vouch for the fact that during Halloween, lots of abortions, live abortions are taking place. And I'm not talking about an abortion where you go to a clinic and you're given or whatever they do. That's not what I'm talking about. So what they have testified of is going into churches, they're not churches like this, but places, churches of Satan, where different incantations are done, and these women, sometimes the abortions are taking place as part of the sacrifice. Women have all, and I've got a clip there, we can't show it because there's no sound, but a woman that's talked about giving birth to 10 children, to 10 babies, And all of those babies were sacrificed on Halloween as part of incantations and rituals that Satanists take part in order for them to conjure in high-ranking demons. The Bible says that we wrestle not against flesh and blood, but against principalities and powers. We don't have time, I don't have time to teach you about that, but essentially what Paul is talking about is the fact that Satan's army is very organised. He has what we call kings, princes of hell, and Satanists will talk about princes of hell because they've been in close contact with them, that occupy different chambers in hell. They have things like gatekeepers, they have all kinds of princes and demons. Some of those names are named in the Bible, but others I would not name, but they are named. And I'm saying all this to say that a part of the rituals that are performed on Halloween is to bring some powerful demons into the earth. Are you with me? Yeah. So if you go on any Satanist website, which I'm not advising you to do unless you're anointed to do, trust me, or unless you want to have nightmares for the next however long, I would advise you not to. But if you go on any website, they will say to you that this night is about a blood ritual and sex rituals. So it's all about blood and sex. Now we know why Satan needs blood, don't we? Because he counterfeits everything that the Lord did. Yeah? The Bible says once and for all God's blood was shed for us on the cross. Is that right? But Satan continuously needs blood shed.
That's right. That's right.
Now, just moving on, just a little bit before I hand over. The Bible says that light shone in the darkness.
That's right.
But darkness could not comprehend it. So Hallow Him is about us releasing the glory of the living King into the darkness. We know that darkness is at its height on nights like this.
Yeah.
But what we are here to declare is that the light, the darkness will not be able to comprehend the light of God today and moving forward. Now, just in my research over the last couple of days, I stumbled across something new, and they're known as the Order of 9 Angels. It's very hard to find information about them, but Satanists, just give me 5 minutes, have different sections. So they all may have slightly different doctrines. And can I just add something actually? It's absolute rubbish for any Satanist to say that Satanists do not believe in Satan. It's misguided. Anton LaVey said that the Church of Satanists do not believe in Satan. But then where would they get the name Satan from? And then who would all those rituals be for? But this new, not new actually, it's been around since I believe the 70s or even before. It's called the Order of 9 Angels. Now it's deep, but essentially this is a very interesting sect of Satanism in terms of what they believe and what they have, when they do write, what they have written about when you research. Now, they believe essentially that, first of all, the 9 orders is about the different levels of initiations that Satanists that belong to that sect need to go through in order to get to a very high level of Satanism. Does that make sense? And each stage brings a different order. And what they believe is that their role essentially is to change the order of the age, which they call the Aeon. Now, Aeon is a word that you will find in Hebrews 11. Am I going too deep? Okay. Are you still with me?
Yeah.
The Bible says that, now faith is the substance of things hoped for, the evidence of things. By faith, we believe. Come on. Right. The word was framed. The word world is quite a deep word. And when you go back to the original Hebrew, it means aeon. And actually when you look at the word aeon, it's more than the word. It's not the word as we know it in terms of the earth. The aeon is an age. Yeah? An age, a dispensation of time. So when the Bible says, now faith is a substance, by it we believe that the world was framed, it's essentially telling us that we can change the age through faith. Okay, that's deep. So we'll park that to one side. But this particular Satanists, the 9 orders, believe that when you get to the 7th stage, they are able to change the aeon. So it's more than just a releasing of darkness and releasing of demonic activity into the earth like other Satanist groups. It's more than initiating children. If you notice that Halloween is aimed at our children, because children are susceptible to the spirit realm.
That's right.
And doorways can be opened in children very quickly. So when they're dressing up as goblins and ghosts and witches and warlocks and everything else, essentially what they're doing is they're reenacting darkness, but also they're opening a door for demons to come in and take hold of their life. Are you with me? But this particular group is very interesting because what they're doing is more than that. Essentially what they believe is that when they get to the high level of what they call mastery, they can then now start praying against the age. Are you with me, church? They need to change the age in order to usher in the end times. They need to change the age in order to usher in one world order, one religion. They need to literally change the age, and they talk about getting rid of Judeo-Christianity, because they realise that whilst Christians are actively engaging in warfare, actively releasing the grace of God, they're not able to actively release the demonic into the earth. And what they talk about is that they need to change the age in order for the Messiah, which is Satan, the Antichrist, to have room to come in and to inhabit the earth. That's deep, right? So now, with all that in mind, the church needs to wake up. Hallow Him was never about a ministry or an individual. I'm happy to put the mic down and somebody else to teach this and go beyond and go further. Hallow Him was always about different churches coming together as the Lord ordained the church to be. The Lord is not coming back for a bride that this is disembodied, a bride that where one part is over there and one part is over there. The Lord is coming back for a body, for the bride that is together, which is the church, that has one mind, that has one voice, that has one vision, that has one outlook. The Lord is coming back for a church that recognises her authority, that recognises that we have power to dispel darkness. We reflect the light. The world will not see the light of Christ. The world will not see the glory of the living God until the church starts to stand up and demonstrate the power of God, that Jesus Christ, your King and my King and your Saviour and my Saviour, died, legitimately on the cross of Calvary. The Bible says that he spoke principalities and powers, that he made an open show of Satan, that he dragged Satan and his powers and his demons and his warlocks and his witches and his wizards and his spells and his incantations and every wicked thing. The Bible says that he spoiled it. He done away with it. He pulled down strongholds. He pulled them down, church. He pulled down mountains.